Year 10 Season 3 Operation High Stakes has finally just dropped for Rainbow Six Siege, and I just want to talk about the journey of Rainbow Six Siege from Year 1 all the way up to Year 10 and what different changes they had for each year, updates and so on and so forth. So starting all the way back in 2015 when Rainbow Six Siege first launched, it was a small tactical FPS shooter with only 20 operators, which is crazy to think about. There's only 20. It was a completely different game to what we have now. There's only a handful of maps and some questionable recoil. If you know, you know. The recoil in old Siege was actually crazy. And I mean, fast forward nearly 10 years on and Siege is pretty much unrecognisable to what it was. It's got a dozen new operators, new mechanics, and it's possibly one of the most complex metas in gaming so far. Year 1 was a bit of a shaky start for Siege. I mean, at launch, the servers were rough. Like, they were a little bit shaky and they weren't very good to start with. I mean, as we go on with Siege, everybody knows the servers have always been an issue. And I mean, overall, the gunplay and the overall gameplay was just very, very clunky. And the game just felt very bare bones, as you can see from here. I mean, there was still only 20 operators at this point. There's very limited customization. But for Year 1, the one thing they did introduce for Operation Black Ice was Buck and Frost and the map Yacht. This was a pretty big change in Siege that they've added new operators in. I mean, Buck was incredible. He wasn't overpowered at the time, but it just gave players a bit of hope that Siege could actually grow and become a bigger game to what it is today. But yeah, still to this day, I think Buck is probably one of my favourite operators. But yeah, also Yacht was introduced. Unfortunately, this map isn't in ranked, but understandably, it's not a very competitive map that works well. It's one of the first DLC maps, and it's a very good map. I still love the map, and it's very visually pleasing. But yeah, that was for Year 1. It was very crazy. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play Year 1. I joined in Year 2. A lot of people did start in Year 1. I think we got Black Ice and there's Glacier skins. So if you got a Glacier skin, count yourself lucky. So moving on to Year 2 was probably one of the biggest years we ever had. It was so much thrown into Siege and it just made it a way bigger game. It was a little bit broken, I can't lie, as you'll know. To start Year 2 off, we got Jackal and Mirror. And Mirror was, and still is, pretty broken. But back then, if you don't know, if you're still a new player, mirrors could not be knifed or hit with an ash charge or anything. The only way to counter a mirror was to get the gas canister at the front. But the mirror and the vector with the ACOG were just a lethal combo. We also got the map Coastline with that drop for the first season. And still to this day, Coastline is probably one of my favourite maps. But yeah, that update just completely shook up the entire meta of how all the operators played. But also in Year 2, we got Ying, Legion and Ella. And plus the infamous Theme Park map, which is quite a popular map. It's got a lot of hate, love and hate. Like, I'm in the middle of it. I do like Theme Park every so often, but it's not the greatest map. But yeah, we still got two of my favourite operators in there. We got Ying and Legion. We also got elite skins for this year. How do I completely forget? This was the first ever elite skin to drop in Rainbow Six Siege, and it's starting to feel a little bit like a complete game. So moving on to Year 3, and Siege really did push the complexity to a new level in this season. It was Operation Chimera, I believe it was. It gave us Outbreak, which is the first PvE event. And honestly, this is probably one of my favourite events there's ever dropped. Outbreak was, I think a lot of people agree with me when I say this, I want Outbreak back. It was so fun. It was just such a fun way to warm up before jumping into a ranked. And it was great because you could play with teammates as well. And it felt a little bit like... It felt a little bit like an operation. If you never played it, it's basically like bots, basically, and you have like juggernauts, and you go around the map and kill them all and defuse the bombs, pretty much. And there's a bit of a story behind it, which I would love to go into, but it would take me ages to go into that. But yeah, obviously with this season, we've got Alibi and Maestro, which are two operators that changed information gathering completely. It just changed how intel was used in Siege, and it really did push people to start using their gadgets a lot more in this season. But also for this year, we got a ranked rework. It's introducing the operator ban phase, which honestly is probably one of the best things they ever added. I'm so happy they got the ban phase in there. But yeah, suddenly Siege wasn't just about gun skill, it was actually about strategy and how to counter players. Moving on to Year 4, we had Burnt Horizon. which is probably one of my favourite years actually. This is when they introduced Mozzie. You could literally steal attacker drones. Mozzie was so good when he dropped. It was probably one of my favourite operators to play when he first dropped. They did nerf him a little bit, but he's still pretty good. But the worst part about year 4, and if you played during year 4, you'll know, Clash. Oh my gosh. Clash was fully broken. It was so wrong. It had literally, they had to disable it multiple times. It was that broken. So yeah, it was a horrible start to year 4, but they did pull it back a little bit. They brought Amaru, which is probably one of the meme operators, to be honest. She's got the big grappling hook, if you don't know, which sort of perked up year 4 a little bit. It did have a very horrible start that year, just because of Clash and how horrible it was to just even do anything. It was not good. But yeah, we got Amaru, and this was the first year that Siege introduced the Battle Pass. Some ideas, I mean, some people will say it was the worst thing they added to Siege. Some people say it's a good thing. I kind of like it. I just wish the Battle Pass was better. I feel like, still to this day, the Battle Pass just doesn't cut it. You pay, I think it's 12 quid for the Battle Pass. It might be 8 or 12. I can't remember off the top of my head. There's something around there. You don't get a whole lot, to be honest. Most of the skins are rubbish in it. There's like, what, 2 a year that's decent, if that. You get a lot of packs from it. That's the only reason I get the Battle Pass, is just for the packs, and that's it. I don't think many other people use it for any other reason than just getting a couple of free packs. Well, they're not free, you're basically paying for them. We also got Nock and Warden in year 4. Nock is still probably one of the best operators today. If you know how to use Nock and use her aggressively, she's amazing. Warden used to be overpowered, but now he's not so good. Just that MPX with ACOG was crazy. So, moving on to year 5, where we're literally like halfway through the year. I mean, as you can see, the amount of changes from year 1 to 5, we're only halfway through, is crazy. But yeah, this year was all about modernising Rainbow Six Siege, and Ubisoft dropped a huge bomb by adding Sam Fisher, also known as Zero. A lot of you may not know, but Zero is based off basically a Navy SEAL operator, and they based the whole operator on him, which I think is quite a cool thing to do. I thought they should do this more often with all their operators, rather than chucking in laser beams everywhere. This was quite cool. Obviously, he didn't use the... I don't think he had the cam catcher. I don't believe he did. Anyway. This year, we also got Ping 2.0, which made communication a lot easier. And, of course, we started getting a lot of reworks in year 5. So, there was, I believe there was Oregon, House, and I think there was another one. I can't think who it was now. It's Oregon and House rework. I'll probably show it on the screen. There was always another one. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, Siege was officially moving away from its clunky early years to something that's a bit more polished and finished. As you can see, year 6, Ubisoft really did double down in giving players different options. I mean, attachments were completely reworked, meaning every gun felt customizable for the first time. Before, if you didn't know, if you had to buy attachments, it was very weird. You had to use Renown to buy attachments, and it was, I don't know, it was very confusing. But well, it wasn't confusing, it was just weird. Like, why did I have to buy an attachment? I could just stick it on the gun. But they're all free now. And we got the drop of Flores and Thunderbird, which I don't know how to feel about these two operators. Flores is pretty good, but I very rarely use Flores or Thunderbird, to be perfectly honest. Thunderbird just seems a little bit underrated, and still does. Still, they weren't great on release. A lot of people use it as a new operator, of course, but they weren't great on release either. But also, the HUD was given a facelift. I mean, the game from here, the HUD just looks completely different. It's just a nice facelift to Siege, and it started to make it look like a modern game rather than an old 2015 game. You can start to see the shift of how Siege really modernised itself. We're slowly getting closer to year 10, but year 7 marked the start of what many call the new Siege. Azami entered the game, which is such a good operator. I love Azami. Please don't nerf Azami, Ubisoft. Don't do it. Don't you dare. But Azami entered the game with Akiba barriers, which just, they're so good. On release, to me, I thought Azami just was going to ruin Siege. I thought this was so unrealistic when I saw it. I was like, nah, we're done. But I was completely wrong. Azami turned out to be one of the greatest operators, and still is one of the greatest operators. Ubisoft also overhauled Ranked, and this is when Ranked 2.0 and crossplay and cross progression was added. So basically, players could finally carry over their accounts from across platforms, whether you're on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Nintendo Switch, DS, Game Boy, whatever you was on, I don't care, you got it all on one. And this was huge for Siege. A lot of people were asking this for a very, very long time, and it finally dropped. And this is probably one of the greatest moments for Siege, because I got all my camos. I used to play on PlayStation back all the way in 2016, I think I started, and I got all my camos onto it, and I was so happy. Year 7 was a very, very good year, but it wasn't a huge change in like gameplay or anything, in the sense of, oh, we got new operators or new guns or whatever it might be. It was more about how the game was played and so on and so forth. But moving on to year 8, this was a bit of a revival era to me. Year 8 was huge, and I think this is probably one of the, I think maybe the most popular Siege has been, maybe year 8. I'd say year 8 is probably the most popular Siege has ever been, mainly because of jynxzi, absolute legend, but it was often known as Siege's revival era. Well, you could say based on Ubisoft, but I would mainly push it over because jynxzi started to pop off at this time. But this was when Brava finally dropped, and she's basically just hacks drones and devices, capcans, all electronics. So yeah, this is basically when Brava and Fenrir were dropped. Also, we got Ram. How did I forget about this? Ram also showed up with her big robot drone. I don't know what you call it. It's fallen out my head. I can't. You know what I'm about? The big drone that rips the floor open. I remember seeing the trailer for this, and I saw that. I was like, I'm cooked. There's no way this is going to be allowed in Siege. That's going to get nerfed straight away. But somehow Ram did not actually get nerfed. I actually had the R4C ACOG, and I almost did a somersault 360 out my window as soon as I saw that, because I thought it is dumb for defenders. But do you know what? It wasn't actually too bad. But yeah, this is really when Ubisoft leaned hard into really testing and trying wild operator gadgets. It's something that is really out of the ordinary, where it's not quite realistic and it's a bit more out there. And do you know what? It actually kind of worked. I'm not going to lie. A lot of these gadgets have worked where they've just started experimenting. Yeah, this year was probably the most booming Siege has ever been. It's the most it's been alive, and I feel like we're on a slight decline now, but Siege is still thriving as ever. Moving on to year 9, we had Operation Deadly Omen. A lot of you probably remember this. I'd probably say 80% of you probably played it this time. This was sort of moving towards a Siege X era now. We're slowly getting there. They were just sort of doing baby steps to get into Siege X. And for year 9, we basically got new destruction mechanics, a lot more futuristic gadgets, and some of the smoothest gameplay we've had in a long time. I believe, although in year 9 we did have some server issues at the start, but I believe they were sorted within, it might have been a week actually. I was going to say it was sorted quick, but I think it was about a week long. But yes, comparing this to how it was in 2015 is actually crazy how much the game has changed. It's unrecognisable. You cannot tell that that is the same as that. No way. It's mad how much it's changed, but I honestly think it's changed for the better. A lot of people may disagree with me and say, oh, Siege has gone terrible now. They've done too much to it. I think it's actually done a lot better. I've been playing since year 2, and yes, they were probably the most fun and best times I've ever had in Siege, just playing back in the day. But you got to remember, this is way back when I was all the way in school. I had no priorities. All I did was gaming all day. Not like I still do that, mate. Nah, it's a different time, and I think it has improved. I think a lot of people just like to hate on Siege and sort of follow a bit of a bandwagon. I understand it, I really do. I do get upset at Siege sometimes. But yeah, this is really when Ubisoft started to refine the rank system. It started to get a bit more competitive as well. Competitive scene sort of grew a lot more. But the rank system, I really still don't agree with, to be honest with you. But that's for another video, okay? We'll skim past the rank system because I've had enough of it. But yeah, I'd probably say year 9 was probably Siege at its most advanced. I think this was probably the biggest jump up we've seen, apart from year 10, which we're going to get into. So, moving on to year 10 when Siege X dropped. I mean, this was probably one of the most hyped up and craziest updates that should have ever dropped in Siege. In my opinion, it probably is still the most craziest update that's ever dropped in Siege. I mean, we got Denari, and I think it was Scopos. There's so many operators. I probably missed a load off. I apologise if I missed a load off. I'm just sort of going off a lot of this off the top of my head. I probably should have drawn this all down, but I woke up, I thought, I'm doing this video. I'm doing it. But yeah, this year 10, we got Siegex, we got Denari. All the maps got a rework, a graphics update, new engine the game was running off, and the start of year 10 was a little ropey, I'm not going to lie. I think the servers were down for a little bit, and it just looked strange because it was such a big jump. It didn't look right, but now we've got used to it, it just looks so much cleaner and better. It's just such a sharper look to the game. The only thing I didn't like about Siege X was the main menu. I always thought that looked a little bit like underwhelming, but obviously I'd rather the gameplay be better than the main menu. But overall, Siege X was easily one of the biggest updates there's ever been. And I mean, showcasing this whole journey of Siege from 2015 all the way up to 2025, the full 10 years of Siege. I mean, from just 20 operators to more than, I believe, 70 now. Yeah, if I have missed anything off, I do apologise. I'm sure I'm probably going to get slated in the comments. There's so much that it's been throughout Siege. I just wanted to try and make this as short and snappy as possible, just to quickly reflect on the whole journey of Rainbow Six Siege. So, but yeah, do let me know in the comments which year was your favourite. For me personally, I would probably say year 5. Let me know if you're a year 1, if you're an absolute OG, if you've been playing since year 1. Do let me know in the comments, as I will be interested to see how many people watching this video did play all the way back in 2015 or 2016. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to drop a sub and a like. But other than that, I will catch you in either the next video or the next live stream.